point platform here. Let me just, yeah. So once you are here, you just have to click the design center as we are designing the API spec. Then you have to come here, and as I was showing, you have to create a new button, and then you'll have different options: a new API spec, new fragment, new Mule app, new async API. So in our case, we have to define an API spec. So define how the API will behave and how it communicates with other systems in API. So this is what we will be creating. So as soon as you click here, it asks you a API title, that what is the title of your project. So our case, we will give it as an American Flights API. And just give it one. So this, there's no limitation that you can do it through RAML only. There are a few people who will use their code to implement this, but it is like more of a slower and older kind of way to define a RAML spec. But very few number of people who are not familiar with RAML, they're still doing with the code logic. So you have other things also where you can define another way. But I think RAML is best suited in any point platform. So most of the people use RAML only. There's a Swagger also, but I haven't used it any time. I didn't get a chance to use it. So yeah, there is options to use a different language if someone is not comfortable with RAML. So we will just create an API spec. It will take a few seconds to load and to fetch all the tips. So what currently it's doing is it's getting the exchange properties for us. So if we see, it took 2 to 3 seconds for us to get to this window. So it was doing an API call again to the exchange and getting us the details, which I'll show you here. So we already got a file called exchange.json. So this is what it was trying to do, that main name and classifier RAML tags. So we will call this as a root file. This is where we will define all the API spec and everything. So this is the RAML 1.0. So which version it is, it's showing, and this is the title. So our motive is to design an API where we'll have that flight resource and things like that, flight, get method and everything. That is what we want to design today. Just give me a minute and we'll start for this one. So are you clear about that flight method which we are going to design? Like what is the end product in the mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So as I said that it's a resource, so we will start with an slash and we will give the flights. So this defines our first resource. So you will see that we will be getting an error if you're doing any mistakes. So it's like it gets a chance to just review your code and why it is showing a error here. So I haven't given a colon here. That's why it is giving a red mark. So as soon as I give a colon, I'm able to see the flight's endpoint here. But as we haven't defined any get method or anything, that is why it is not showing any endpoints yet. It is just showing the flight resource. So next will be to add get method. So I just pressed enter and I was already there at this indentation. I did not have to come to this indentation. It gives you options that you have defined a resource, so automatically you will be coming to this indentation. So I'll just provide a get. So I was telling you that there will be an API shelf which will help us to give suggestions, right? So you have to pull this arrow out. So sometimes it's not visible. So you have to just click this arrow and you will get what is there for you. So my arrow cursor is right now in flight resources. So we don't have any suggestions here. That's why we are not able to see anything. As soon as you press and enter, you will get all the suggestions that what are the possibilities which you can use here. So we will just look on the possibilities, what things we can use after the resource. So the first things comes into the mind is the methods. So this is all the methods which we can use: delete, get, head, options, patch, all the HTTP methods. Then this is docs, like just to write your name, that this resource, what it will do, what is the description, just to make our code more readable. So we can provide a description here. Then this is types entries. This will come in later part, at what it's a data type or what kind of it is. And then is a security. So many projects are using security at their API spec also, but it depends on project to project that do you want to do a secure property here or not. So that is a like more a kind of advanced thing which we can see in this session, or sometime when we get some other free time. So we'll start with our get resources. So as soon as I click the get resource, again it came to this point, and it is showing the different thing what we can add, like a body, again the description, that headers and all these things. So what we will do is we will come back a space back, and we will add another resource called post.
So the number of spaces on the indentation, is it determined by the
UI.
this UI itself, or do we have to have some specific, suppose some people, when I press the tab, it by default it moves 5 character space, right? And some people, they may have set up their system with 8 characters, something like that.
Okay.
So is it the way it works here, or can we change that indentation number of characters to be moved, or?
So I think it can work in the UI, like as you press and enter, so it will automatically come onto an indentation level,
Oh,
and you
okay.
don't have to worry about indentation. If you see here, you're getting the options, and you know that after the resource, I want to do a get method. So if I remove these things, and again if I come back here, and if I don't get here, if I come to this indentation, I won't find that get method.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
cannot see that, right? So it has to be a parent child. So this is a parent, so indentation should be inside it. That's how we will get to know. So this is also a way that you are on a right path or not.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Otherwise, that suggestions will not be even.
Suggestions will not come, and you'll be thinking like that something is wrong, and then you have to check the indentation. So this actually this API spec RAML, we don't cover it in the like starting sessions, because some people will just get scared of it and will not continue doing MuleSoft. So how we designed it is like after 5 or 6 sessions, we
Oh,
used to give this lecture. But as you said, you were interested in this one, at how we are doing an API spec RAML. That's why we thought, yeah, it's good idea to start with this, because
okay.
if you know the flow, then it will be a lot more easier to understand MuleSoft. Because if you go to the training which is provided by MuleSoft for MCD, it is kind of similar to this structure only. They're also showing the same flight example. I've taken it from there only, from the official training website. Most of the things are from the training website, but I am adding things which are not covered in that, like which are already implementing in project. So I'm adding that part and then covering it. So if you do it from there, then it will be very confusing, because they will not tell you how the flow is going to happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually I went through it long back.
Mhm, mhm.
I couldn't understand what they are
Exactly,
trying.
exactly. The training is like designed in a very beautiful way and understandable, but the connectivity is not proper. That's what I thought of. There are many
See,
students
they
who have.
make if
Mhm.
they make everything easier,
Right, right.
then
So
no institute will start this, right? So
exactly, exactly.
each software vendor, they have their own catch point internally.
Right. So even I have attended the trainer session also for MuleSoft FCD. I have got a chance to attend, and they're also like they will just show you the bits and pieces that this is API spec RAML, this is implementation, but how it is actually getting connected, you will have to figure it out on your own. They will not show you that starting that how it is getting connected. Okay, anyways, we'll move to other things. So we have created, as you can see, the flight resources is completed and we have get and post method, right? So as you remember that we had one more resource called ID, where we have to just check with the ID. So we will add that ID also. So it was an URI parameter. That is why I am giving a curly braces. So whenever we have an uh, a URI parameter, then you have to provide a curly braces. This is important part. And now you can see there is an error in our console. So why it is happening? It's happening because of the indentation. So I have to just get a space back and this will go. So this should come under the get line or the flights. This is a flight resource and this is under the ID line. So once I get this, then I will again get the get resource here.
This looks like this is not looking like a child resource, right, of that flight, because it is coming under the flights
Correct. So
directly.
the child resource, it's not a child resource, it's a nested resource. Child
Yeah,
is the methods. Okay. So
okay.
this is a nested resource. So what
But
will
it
happen is,
still comes under flights, right?
yeah, it still comes under flight. So if you go to a new browser and if you want to get this one, so you will be querying it like this: flights, then slash, then your ID, which you are passing.
Yeah.
So this is how it will work. So that is why we haven't given any like flights and then ID. That's how it will work. Long picture. So now we have got two API endpoint, which is get, post, and get. Now we will add query parameters. So I think if you remember from the first session that we were doing, when we were querying the flight API, we had a chance to set the destination also, right? We could set the destination and we could get flights which were belonging to that destination. So for that, it was having query parameter. So that is why we want to add a query parameter to the get resource. So whenever we are doing a get resource, we want to specify a query parameter. So again, we don't have to write anything. It's coming up here. We just have to click it. So as soon as we click the query parameters, it is up here. Now you have to define the name of the query parameter. That what will be the name of my query parameter. It can be anything. In our case, we are using as destination. Okay.
We also pass the date, right?
Sorry, the date.
Yeah, the date of the travel.
The date of the travel, that was in Make My Trip, if I remember, right?
Oh, okay.
This is the API which we are trying to develop, which,
American flight. Okay.
yeah, American flight. So it didn't have that capability. Yes, we can add the capability of giving the dates, but it will become a more complex code. So we will go with that query parameters for the destination. So whenever you give a query parameter or anything of that sort, you have to provide that it's required or it's not required. It's a kind of primary key. Suppose if you don't give the primary key and it will not work, right? It's like that only. So you have to specify a required. Again, when you come here, you will already getting a parameter option, and
Oh,
parameter you
so
can define.
attributes.
Yes, what is the maximum length it should have. You can just filter out things like here, right? What is the minimum length? What is the required? So I can give you a use case here. And that a few days back, I was designing an API spec which required a phone number to be passed in query parameters. Okay, phone number of any user. So we used a parameter called max length and min length. So to restrict the phone number from like a 10 number of 10 digit is the phone number. So to restrict that, we use the max length. So the user is not providing a 9 number or 11 number phone digit, and it just a small addition to the addition of a phone number check can save you many dollars, right? How it can save that? If you do a check here only at the time of at the starting time only, then it will not go to all the other API calls
And
and
this is not possible in OIC. You know, when we use REST API and SOAP services in OIC,
Mhm.
that also has a template parameter and a query parameter, but you don't have. Okay, this is the
Limitation to that.
maximum limitation,
Mhm.
maximum length. No, there is
Yeah,
no.
you can perform more of the task also. Just showing the default values. Think we can use more things also and can define at your own. But this suffice maximum use cases which we have. So for destination, I just want that it should not be a mandatory field. Suppose you don't like on that day we were doing, so it was not a mandatory field if you remember,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'll show you that also. Just a second. I'll just remove that part. Okay, let me remove this. So yeah, it's a better idea to do it here. Okay, so as I was showing you, this is the resource manager folder where we store all the things, and here we have the API endpoints. But what I didn't show you in the PowerPoint slides is we have a thing called uh, let me show you the mocking service here. Okay, so whenever if you want to do the mocking service, you can do it in the starting only. You don't have to wait for the project to complete and then you'll mock it and get the ID and sample data. You can do at any point of time when it is ready. So we'll just use the get resource now and see what we are getting. Okay. So you just have to type, click the get and go to try it. So this is the mocking service URL, which is already defined by MuleSoft. So we'll just use a try it, and you can see the request URL is there. Query parameters is not coming. It's just an optional thing now. And we will do a send. So as soon as we do a send, what we get is 200 HTTP status code and we get a blank array. So it's obvious that we haven't defined anything. So by default, it gives you a 200 OK status and a
Mm.
blank array. So next objective will be to add the flight details, that whenever we're doing a get resource, we should be getting all the flights here, right?
Okay, the payload will be visible here.
Yes, exactly. And that will be an example payload. It won't be a real-time data of the flights. So moving to the console, we were adding the query parameters here. So let's add the query parameters and the name as destination. And so by default, if you don't provide anything here, so it will take as a mandatory field that it will be a mandatory field. But we don't want query parameters to be a mandatory field. We want users to get all the flights and we want them to filter also. So that is why we are like doing it forcefully. We are making it a non-mandatory field by keyword called required,
Oh,
and we are passing it as false. So most of the things which you do in a get parameter are mandatory fields actually. If there are 10 fields, so 9 out of 10, 9 will be mandatory and only few 1 or 2 will be non-mandatory. So that's how we will pass false. And if you want, you can use the required and true also. So it's a good best practice to write. Like some people will not use the required, okay? They will just
we go
think
with the
that yeah, it
default.
is default, but it's a good practice to use the default if it even if it's a true also. So we got the required as false. Then as we come here, we have to show them that what are the destination they can choose from. It's a pick list kind of destination. They are not they will not be able to give the destination exactly. So that's why we will use this enum parameter, and then we will give the different you can say the code of the destination. So again, I didn't give a space, so it was again showing an error. So that's how you will see.
This reminds me the COBOL programming.
Okay, okay. So
I used to do COBOL programming long back.
COBOL. Okay. So this was like similar to that, right? I've
Yeah,
heard of
where
COBOL,
you'll
but
have a numbers,
mhm.
where you'll have line numbers, but
Okay.
even if you make a small dot, it will throw out the whole code as a compilation error. It will
Okay.
give you 1,000 lines of error messages.
And then you'll not be able to figure out where exactly it got.
Yeah, that is the challenging part in
Yeah.
COBOL.
So it right now it's not like present in the market much, na COBOL, or it's still people are using.
COBOL, people are still using in the mainframe side, but there is no new projects or anything.
Right, right. So we have added the query parameters, right? So again, we'll go back to the console and check what is the difference we are getting in our flight resource. So let's go back to the get resource part. And now if you see, you get a query parameter as destination. Okay. So the things will be visible here also. So again, we'll do try it. And now let me just expand it a bit more. So it is giving us an query parameter SFO, LAX, CLE. So right now it's false. So I will not provide anything and I'll just send again, try sending again. And I will see that, yeah, again, it's returning a empty array for me. And even if I do a SFO or anything, it will again respond in empty array because we haven't defined anything in response section yet. So by default, it's giving a blank array. And just to prove that point that if you give it true, so I'll provide it as a true. And let's see what is the difference we get. Let's go back to summary once, get resource. So now if you see string required, and then we will try it again, and you have to pass it. There's no other way. Like you can't choose a blank thing. You have to pass it and then you can do it. So that is how it is working behind the scenes.